Bulletcast for life.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 Under the Radar. My name is Brandon. Thank you very much for listening. And let's just jump right into it. We got some New Japan news. We got some Women of Wrestling news. We got an NXT TV show report. And of course, we got the Total Bellas recap. So let's just jump into the NXT report. NXT happened yesterday. They taped some matches and some interviews during TakeOver on Saturday, so not a lot to talk about on this show. Just 2 matches and then a lot of recaps on the TakeOver shows and some promos. So let's get into it. They start off with the full recap, talking about all the different matches, and then we have the first match. We have Dakota Kai going up against Bianca Belair. We talked about this last week, how they set this up. Bianca Belair having the squash match, and then Dakota Kai having a backstage segment, and then Bianca Belair basically calls her out and says that she wants to, show that she is the EST of NXT. And she is the EST, according to this match, because she beats Dakota Kai in 6 minutes. I wouldn't say exactly a squash match. Dakota Kai got in some offense, but this was a short match, and Bianca Belair got a lot of the offense in. Bianca looking athletic. I'm not sold on her completely. She's just really green. She's really young, so obviously that's what NXT's for. It's a developmental territory. She'll go out on the road. She'll have some matches. She'll get better. I don't see her being a challenger for the championship quite yet because she is a heel. Shayna Baszler, a heel right now. I think Shayna Baszler is destined for the main roster, especially with Ronda Rousey up there and the Four Horsemen connection. So I think Bianca Belair probably won't get a title shot. I mean, she might get a title shot, as one of just the people Shayna Baszler runs through, but I don't think she's going to be that. I think NXT really wants to save her and kind of keep her strong going forward, especially if they do have some babyface take the title off of Shayna Baszler. I think Belair is kind of that next heel in line to be a challenger for someone, possibly if Dakota Kai ever does get over her fear of Baszler and beats her, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think definitely Candice LeRae and Kairi Sane are the 2 top picks to dethrone Baszler. So, next up, we have the Ricochet Velveteen Dream. They did a recap of that, and they go backstage to Ricochet, and he talks about how he wants to be more than just a cool internet flippy GIF guy. He took the spotlight away from Velveteen, and now the spotlight solely belongs to him. So just a simple babyface promo from Ricochet. Ricochet not known for his promos. He's decent. He's not going to blow you away with anything, but just a good, solid, straight-ahead babyface promo from him. Kind of talked about it a little bit on the NXT Takeover instant analysis I did on Saturday. So if you haven't listened to that, go back on the feed and listen to that. Once again, just me doing a podcast talk about NXT Takeover, which I thought was a damn good show. Not the best ever, but with NXT, it's a very high bar with those shows, and I think not one of the best, but definitely a very good show. I think it was better than Money in the Bank was. So, maybe at the end of the show, I'll give some of my last Money in the Bank thoughts before we head out. So, next up, we have a recap of the Shayna Baszler Nikki Cross match, and then backstage they do a segment with Shayna Baszler with her 4 horsewomen buddies, minus Ronda Rousey, so that would be Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke are backstage, possibly setting up a stable between the two, kind of setting up the 4 horsewomen. And obviously I think they're going to be heels. I don't know exactly what Shafir and Duke have in terms of wrestling capabilities and promo segments. If you told me Shayna Baszler was going to be a really good wrestler, I don't know if I would have thought so, but she's really come a long way, and I don't know exactly what Duke and Shafir have because I haven't really seen them on the MMA circuit, I haven't seen them talk or anything like that. Shafir is Roderick Strong's wife, so maybe there might be a little bit of a crossover there with Roderick Strong and Undisputed Era. But just a simple heel promo from Baszler. So that's basically the the theme of this show. Just simple, straight ahead stuff, waiting for the next NXT tapings at Full Sail coming up this week for the next week or next month of shows. So then we had a Aleister Black Lars Sullivan recap. They go backstage and an interviewer tries to get a word from Aleister, but he is too beat up, limping, selling a leg injury, and he says he can't talk right now, and he's just... They show him limping down the hallway, and that's all you got out of that. So the next step, we had the NXT Tag Team title match recap, and then we go backstage with Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. They talk about how they climbed all the way to the top, and unfortunately they lost, but this isn't the last you've seen of them, and they'll be back. So onwards, they had a very long video of Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, just really recapping all the big spots that happened, telling the story. So if you didn't watch NXT TakeOver, which I highly suggest you do, if you just watched this show, it definitely told you all the different things that needed to be said on all the different matches. Then they didn't... No promos from either one of them, obviously, because it was such a hard-fought match. You don't want to have them... You want to have them selling their injuries. And I appreciate that. They advertised that Aleister Black will be live next week, so they do this from time to time with NXT. Not all the wrestlers are always on every show, so they kind of advertise appearances. So when they mean live, maybe he does a promo, maybe he just has a simple squash match, but we will have to see what happens with that. And then we had EC3 entering the Performance Center. He talks about how he was not on NXT TakeOver Chicago and how that's going to be the last time for a while that you're going to see EC3 not on a TakeOver show. So he went into Mr. Regal's office to demand a either a match or something. We didn't actually see him talk to Regal. We just said they had the interviewers, or they had media personnel inside the Performance Center asking him questions off camera, and he basically said that he wants to talk to Regal about what's next for him. So I kind of speculated a little bit what EC3 has upcoming for him. Maybe he's the next challenger for Aleister Black. I think he can be a really good heel for Black, hopefully. Right now, EC3 is one of those heels in NXT that gets cheered a lot, and I think he needs to be kind of more of a Tommaso Ciampa, to where he does actual dastardly things to get booed by the crowd. So next up, we had our main event. We had War Raiders Hanson and Rogue going up against the Mighty Nick Miller and Shane Thorne, the Mighty, formerly known as TM61. And another short match here. The War Raiders go over in 4 minutes and 31 seconds. They didn't do a lot in terms of the Mighty. The Mighty didn't get a lot of offense here. The War Raiders just basically ran right through them. I didn't understand why they did this match so short, especially... I mean, obviously, this match was taped before NXT TakeOver, so you don't want to have the crowd get drained too much for an opening match. But I thought they could have had some sort of cop-out finish with the Mighty getting disqualified. You can tell the story of the War Raiders being very overpowering for them, and then the Mighty having to, they hit them with a chair or something, knowing that they're not going to beat the Raiders, and you don't get the finish right away. This was like just a definitive, straight-ahead... I mean, if you didn't know who the Mighty were, you would have thought that they were just some jobbers, and the War Raiders just ran right through them. Obviously, the Mighty did get some offense in, but to start it off, but in the end, the Raiders went through them, hit their big moves, and pinned them. But I'm not gonna say I'm super high on the Mighty, but I do like their work. They're really good wrestlers. They just turned heel, so I don't exactly know what they have in terms of a heel promo. They did a really good video package a couple months ago when they came back, when one of them was coming back from injury, so they were finally getting back to NXT. They did a nice little story about them being in Australia, how they became a tag team and climbing through their indie ranks. It was a really good video package that they had for them. And I mean, I thought it was kind of like what I said a few weeks ago with Bianca Belair and the Apollo Crews stuff. They've done similar packages like that, and I thought they were gonna get not a huge push, but I thought they would get some sort of a push. I don't exactly know what is here for them afterwards, because they just basically got ran through and squashed. So a little disappointed to see the Mighty go down that easily, but obviously the War Raiders have big things headed their way. Undisputed Era versus the War Raiders might be the next tag team match for the championships, or not. I know they have a NXT Championship Tag Team match at the UK. There were some tapings there, so we're going to have to wait and see what happens there, and if there's a feud coming out of there. But yeah, War Raiders definitely a team to watch. So next up, that is it for the NXT TV show. Nothing real special here. You can basically watch the whole show on YouTube if you want. I haven't looked this up, but I'm pretty sure they had all the little interviews they had with EC3, Ricochet, Shayna Baszler. You can see quick little recaps of the matches of Bellard, Kai, and then the Mighty and War Raiders. Neither one of these matches were anything special. It's only a 45-minute show. Usually the NXT shows are like 55 minutes to an hour. So obviously, fresh off a takeover, no real happenings going on. Just a lot of recaps and some below average matches. So I'd say a thumbs down on the show. But there's nothing really. I'd say thumbs down in terms of telling you to go watch it. But, it was okay. And the video package that they had for the NXT matches were really good. Really well done. Great music. Great cinematography. And yeah, that's it. So onwards to a really obscure piece of news that I definitely know we're not going to talk about on the Bulletcast until Philip might hear this, and then he's going to shoehorn it in there just to spite me. AXS TV, who is the home of New Japan Pro Wrestling here in the United States, they will be having a they do live tapings. They have the show, well, not tapings, but they have live events like the Cow Palace show coming up. They've done the Long Beach stuff. And now they have another wrestling show coming to AXS TV. They have Women of Wrestling. It is set to air in 2019, and tapings are going to happen later this year. The tapings will happen in Los Angeles. No word yet on when the actual date will happen, but AXS came out, made the announcement that they will be airing Women of Wrestling in 2019, so no dates on when the tapings are going to happen, no dates on when the show is going to air. Lakers owner Jeannie Buss is involved in the project. Mark Cuban is one of the owners of AXS TV, so he's always involved in that. So yeah, just interesting, more wrestling on cable TV. There's so much wrestling that you can watch on cable these days. There's MLW, there's Lucha Underground, there's Impact, which Impact apparently has been getting really good lately. Maybe I'm going to have to start watching it, do the tapings podcast a little later than normal, just to get in a review of Impact, Lucha Underground, Impact, MLW, ROH is over here in the Bay Area. I have to find it on like the New England station. Then now Women of Wrestling. There's just a bunch of wrestling over here on television, and yeah, even more on the internet. So that should be exciting. Women's wrestling. Never actually seen a Women of Honor show, so definitely we'll check it out to hopefully they put in some good work, because Women of Honor, the Ring of Honor type not spin-off, but the Ring of Honor has women wrestling for them, and it just hasn't been good. I've seen a couple matches. No knock on the women, it's just they don't really have any real storylines behind it. The matches aren't that good, but they don't really have the best women wrestlers in the world wrestling for them, so it's to be expected. So onwards to New Japan Pro Wrestling. We have the full card for the G1 special in San Francisco. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, 9 matches have been announced in full. Obviously, we went over, either last week or 2 weeks ago, we went over the top 4 matches, but there have been some title matches that have been added. A few matches, because I told us last time that since there were some title matches, they weren't going to announce those until the finishes happened, and now we have those title matches, including the Never Openweight Championship and the Junior Championship. So let's just go right into it. We have some tag team matches to get into, because with New Japan, there's always going to be some tag team matches. And we have a big 10-man tag with Yoshihashi, Gedo, Rocky Romero, Sho and Yo of Roppongi 3K going up against Haku, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, Yujiro Takahashi, and Chase Owens. So we have the Bullet Club, of course. You got to get all the Bullet Club boys on the card. Another Bullet Club tag team is going to be up very shortly, but this is just the opener. Should be fun. Sho and Yo, good wrestlers. Tama Tonga is entertaining. It should be fun to see Haku there. Yeah, I mean, nothing real. Just a match to get the show going, get people in their seats. I don't expect anything out of this. A match that I'm really looking forward to is one of the tag team matches. Tomohiro Ishii going up against Toriano Minoru Suzuki. And, Tomohiro Ishii and Toru Yano are going up against Minoru Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr. Didn't want to speak too fast to where you didn't understand what I was saying. But anyways, this should be real fun. Hopefully I can see... Hopefully Yano just stays out the way and he doesn't do his stupid antics. But we all know he's going to do some stupid stuff in the match. I really just want to see Ishii go at it with Suzuki and Sabre. That's going to be a fun stuff. And obviously in the end, I assume Sabre is going to stretch Yano and make him tap out. So that should be fun. Next up, another tag team match. We have Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kushida up against the Bullet Club with Hangman Page and Marty Scurll. So another fun tag team match here. Kushida and Scurll probably going to take the load of this. I don't exactly know what the finish would be on this, because Tanahashi, the old veteran, Kushida, one of the top juniors in the division. Hangman Page, probably out of the four, is probably the weak link in terms of New Japan. Marty Scurll is in line for a junior heavyweight championship match eventually. Even though Takahashi is the champion, he set up a lot of feuds with Ospreay and with Liger and with Mysterio, especially coming off of what happened at Dominion. But another fun tag team match. Hopefully these tag team matches and these opening matches aren't here for too long. They can get it over with, because there's a lot of matches to come. Next, we have our first championship match. We have the Never Openweight champion, the new champion who just won it back from Michael Elgin, Hiroki Goto, defending against Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb, who is the APW Universal Champion. APW is a local promotion here in the Bay Area. Jeff Cobb, who actually the APW has run some shows, 2 shows in fact, in the Cow Palace, so this is not going to be Jeff Cobb's first time wrestling here. Last time he wrestled Jack Swagger for the Universal Championship. Cobb defended it successfully. I don't see Cobb winning here, even though I hope the crowd will be behind Cobb. I think it'll be fun, but it is a New Japan crowd. Don't exactly know the locals compared to some people traveling in. Since it is sort of a big show, even though there is not a lot of tickets being sold yet, there has been about, I think, 3,000 to 4,000, maybe even 5,000 being sold at the moment, but definitely not a sellout by any means. The show is going to be in, I believe, 2 weeks. Yes, 2 weeks until the show starts, so that should be fun to see, especially now with the full card announced. I wonder how much of the tickets will be sold. So next up, we have the IWGP Tag Team Championship with the Young Bucks facing Evil and Sonata. Talked about this a little bit already. One of the 4 matches that was announced to begin with. We have the Young Bucks and Sonata in a rematch at Dominion. Should be a good match. I expect the Young Bucks to successfully defend. And then we have another match we talked about. Kazuchika Okada, Will Ospreay going up against Naito and Bushi. Probably Naito's going to pull off some shenanigans in terms of being his, it's going to be leaned heavily on the characters. Probably Ospreay and Bushi will carry a majority of the match, and Ospreay might do some crazy flip, and we're all going to lose our minds. Then next up, we have a newly announced match. I talked about it since Takahashi had to defend against Desperado, and he successfully defended the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. He will defend against Dragon Lee. I fully expect Takahashi to defend here, or successfully defend here. Should be a really good match. And yeah, I don't exactly know a whole lot about Dragon Lee. I have seen him wrestle in New Japan, but he's not exactly a Ospreay, a Kushida, Marty Scurll. He's not on that level, so I don't exactly think he's going to win the match, so which might take it away a little bit, but hopefully they can work a good match and have maybe 1 or 2 believable near falls in the match. And then next up, the last 2 matches we've already talked about. The U.S. title match of Jay White defending against Juice Robinson. Going to be wondering how the crowd reacts to Juice Robinson and Jay White. Then we have the main event, Kenny Omega defending the IWGP Heavyweight Championship against Cody Rhodes. They haven't done much to hype up the match yet in terms of being the Elite. They had some stuff, just kind of some throwaway things from Cody Rhodes talking about how it's going to be over, this feud's over with, they're just going to get it out of the way at the Cow Palace. So I assume within the next 2 weeks, we'll probably get a lot more storylines headed into the match this weekend and probably the next. It's a little sad that we have to lean on a YouTube series to really get us excited for a match for New Japan, but that's kind of the age we live in right now, and I fully expect Kenny Omega to defend successfully against Cody Rhodes. going into the G1 Climax. And speaking of the G1 Climax, we have the full lineup, the full A and B block matches, all the participants, when the matches will happen. And maybe we'll get a prediction from me, probably not. But anyways, we have the G1 Climax. If you don't know, it is a tournament that runs during this time is going to be between July 14th up to August 12th. Just a grueling tournament. Everyone's wrestling. Not everybody, obviously, but it is a big tournament. And hopefully I can watch every single match. Maybe not every match, but at least the marquee ones, and bring you with some reviews of those on the show later on. So we have the A block. We got the B block. Just nothing real special here in terms of new names. But if we go down the line, we have the last match on the schedule. We have Kenny Omega versus Kota Ibushi, which might be the most interesting match, just in terms they've been saving that match. It should be a really big deal. Maybe people speculate maybe Omega and Ibushi would main event the Tokyo Dome one day. They haven't shown any dissension at the moment, so it's going to be fun to see what exactly, because this is the last match. It will be the final night for the B block on August 11th, so it'll be fun to see where they land. So hopefully they can tell a really nice story. I don't exactly think someone's going to turn in the match. They might just wrestle a reluctant style. And yeah, so we'll just go over who is in which block. We have the A block. We have Okada, Tanahashi, Jay White, Evil, Minoru Suzuki, Bad Luck Fale, Michael Elgin, Togi Makabe, Hangman Page, Yoshihashi. That's all in block A. Then next up in block B, we have Omega, Kota Ibushi, Tetsuya Naito, Zack Sabre Jr., Hiroki Goto, Juice Robinson, Toru Yano, Tama Tonga, Tomohiro Ishii, and Sonata. So yeah, not a lot of not a lot of differentiate, not a lot of new competitors in the match in the tournament compared to last year. Should be a fun match, especially with all the participants. We've kind of seen all these matches before. I mean, Okada, Tanahashi, Suzuki, Okada. I mean, Okada going up against all these people is going to be fun to see. Obviously, Kenny and Naito on the other side, going to be fun to see. I don't exactly know who I can see winning the champion or winning each block. If I would to say, I think the A block winner might be Okada. They might tell the story of him I think this might be the story of both him and Omega, that match took a lot out of him, even though it's going to be over a month since that match, once the tournament starts. But that tournament is a hell of a tournament with so many matches, and then when you're not wrestling in the actual G1, you got to wrestle in tag team matches. So I expect them to tell a story of Omega and Okada possibly fading at the end, just taking too much punishment. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's Naito winning block B. I mean, block A, it's not like nothing real stands out. I think definitely the winner of the whole G1 probably is going to come out of block B. You got Omega, you got Ibushi, you got Naito, Sabre Jr. I don't think Juice is going to win. Ishii, not really. I mean, Sonata's a good guy, but I don't see any. So I definitely think it's going to be between probably Ibushi and Naito, maybe Zack Sabre as being the favorites for me to win that tournament. So yeah, the final matches on the show for each block B, or sorry, let's start off with block A. Block A, we got Okada, Tanahashi, Jay White versus Evil, Minoru Suzuki versus Bad Luck Fale, Michael Elgin versus Togi Makabe, Hangman Page versus Yoshihashi, and then in block B we got Omega as Ibushi, as I already talked about, Naito versus Zack Sabre Jr., which could be really fun, and that honestly could be the match, could be the main event, because they might have the most points by the end of the night, or by the end of the tournament. Goto versus Juice, Toru Yano versus Tama Tonga, and then Tomohiro Ishii versus Sonata. So, just looking at the final matches, I could see Okada and Tanahashi being the last two in block A, and then Naito and Zack Sabre being the finalist in block B. And then obviously the winner of each block faces off against each other on August 12th in the finals. So that's it for the G1 Climax. And then next up we have the Total Bellas recap. What you guys have all been waiting for. I know that I kind of was rambling on today, but now I'm going to get to the good stuff. We're going to get to that Total Bellas recap. So, Nikki had to watch Birdie for a day because Bree and Brian went off to Phoenix to pack up their things and move back to San Diego because since John and Nikki broke up, Nikki obviously has 30 days apparently to move out of the house, and they're going to be moving in together. All three of them, Nikki, Bree, and Brian. So Nikki is watching Birdie, Bree's kid, Bree and Brian's kid, and she had a good time. She was able. The baby didn't die. The baby didn't do anything to hurt herself. So that's always good. And she hired the big controversy between Nikki and Bree was that Nikki hired a nanny. So she can go to the gym, and Bree was appalled because all Nikki had to do was watch Birdie for one day. She couldn't even do that. She had to hire a nanny. But Nikki was trying to teach Bree a lesson that she's trying to be supermom, and sometimes you can't be supermom when you have all these responsibilities because they have Bella Radici, which is their wine, and then they have Birdie B, which is their clothing line, and then Bree might want to get back in the ring and she has to take care of Birdie, and there's all these different things that she has to juggle, and sometimes having a full-time nanny can be a good solution to managing your time. Not saying that you need to have the baby always in the hands of the nanny, but just for an hour or two to take your mind off things, to not worry about Birdie, and just focus on your businesses. So that was that. But another thing, a really big moment in the show, in all of humanity, was that John invited Nikki over for dinner. They go look at the sunset, so beautiful, and then they get down to brass tacks, and they talk about their relationship, where they stand, and everything. Nikki talks about how she really wants kids, and how ever since Birdie happened, she's really been dead set on kids, and she doesn't want to go her whole life with that regret. And John came around and said that he will undo his vasectomy surgery, which, big news here. I didn't know that John Cena got, his balls snipped. And you can even reverse the surgery because I think you just put some blockers in your balls or in the tubes that connect to your balls. And anyways, you take the things out, and then John Cena can produce his seed for Nikki Bella. So apparently, the wedding is back on because John Cena is willing to give Nikki Bella a child. Nikki Bella in her mid-30s, John Cena in his 40s. But kids can always be produced by guys because, it's how the world works. It's a strange thing how men can produce babies into their 70s, and once the women hit like their 40s, apparently they can't produce any kids. But that's kind of a myth. They can still produce children. But anyways, then they do this preview for the next episode or the next couple episodes, and then they talk about maybe the wedding is going to get called off again. We don't know why. All it was Nikki was on the phone with, I think, Bree, and they talked and Nikki said that maybe the wedding is off again. So we got to stay tuned for that and see what happens in the lives of Total Bellas. Miz and Maurice coming up in mid-July, so as soon as Total Bellas is done, we're going to jump right into the Miz and Mrs. Show with that recap, so stay tuned for that. So, yeah, so that's it for the show, I guess. I go a little bit off top, well, I don't know if I'd say off topic, because it's still wrestling, and that's what the show's about. I'll just give a little bit of my thoughts on Money in the Bank. I was not at the instant analysis, but your boy is the new Bullet Cast champion, 2-time champion, and I'm holding on to this. I ain't gonna give it up. But anyways, Money in the Bank. Kind of said a little earlier, didn't think it was as good as NXT Takeover Chicago. I thought it was a decent show. I thought, if I were to give it a grade, I'd say maybe a B. I think the best match of the show might have been the Nakamura AJ match. I felt like it ran a little bit too long, though. It was like 20 something minutes, maybe even a half hour. I felt like it dragged a little bit in the beginning. It really got good at the end. I really love the spot of AJ just hitting Nakamura right in the dick for the finish, and then he hits him with the big phenomenal forearm for the victory. This, last man standing. It's kind of a weird match. It kind of hurts the flow of the match. You have to kind of always at least have like a 5 to 10 second stop in between a lot of the big moves just so the referee can count. It kind of does break up the flow. At least for a regular match, it's like 2 seconds and you just go right to the next thing. With last man standing matches, it's kind of plotting, a lot of, not garbage wrestling, kind of a lot of hardcore stuff, a lot of brawling. Yeah, so I thought that was probably the best match of the show. I warned you guys. I was wrong on the actual prediction, but I did warn you. If the women's ladder match happens before the women's title match, watch out for some shenanigans. And shenanigans did happen. My girl Alexa Bliss wins the Money in the Bank briefcase, and it takes her less than 2 hours to cash in on Nia Jax during her match with Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey was just about to put on the armbar, and then out of nowhere, Alexa Bliss hits her in the back with the briefcase, causing a disqualification, causing Ronda Rousey to win. So I still got that prediction right. But then Alexa Bliss hits up Nia Jax more with the briefcase, beats up Ronda Rousey with the briefcase, hits a Sparkle Splash. I don't care if it's Twisted Bliss, it'll forever be a Sparkle Splash to me. And she pins Nia Jax for the victory. 1, 2, 3. I mean, Alexa Bliss as the champion again. Yeah, it's fine, I guess. I wonder if the whole reason they put the thing on Alexa Bliss is just they can have the spot of Ronda breaking her arm, because we've all seen that she's double jointed, and she's done the spot where she pretends to have a broken arm and then she puts it back in place and then she goes on the offense. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be the whole spot they're leading up to for SummerSlam. Obviously, on the Bullet Cast tomorrow, or today if you're listening to this, because I'm putting this up a little later than normal, we will talk about the whole angle with Ronda Rousey and Alexa Bliss. And then, so with the men's Money in the Bank briefcase, I thought it under-delivered a little bit. Obviously, I don't want the guys going out there killing themselves doing high spots, flipping off ladders and stuff. It definitely wasn't the NXT ladder match they had at WrestleMania weekend for the North American Championship. It definitely wasn't that crazy, which I'm always kind of go back and forth with those matches. Yes, it's entertaining, it's high-flying, exhilarating, but then I always just don't like guys putting their bodies on the line that much. I mean, just simple moves can do so much. You can tell stories. Obviously, the Gargano Ciampa match, they had their hardcore stuff, but the first match I thought told a great story, and they did a lot of wrestling moves with that match. And let's get back on track. We got the men's Money in the Bank match, Braun Strowman winning. I feel like it's just going to be a straightforward cash in. I think he's just going to either cash in advance. I mean, I think that's probably the babyface move, is just he cashes in advance for SummerSlam. They got the multi-man match to see who faces Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, and I think that's how Braun Strowman's going to get inserted in the match. Maybe the big dog will be involved. We shall see. Sami Zayn and Bobby Lashley was everything I probably expected of it, which means it was nothing. Bobby Lashley, I've been on the bandwagon for the last couple months ever since he debuted, and he hasn't really shown me much. Sami Zayn apparently is hurt. He's nursing some shoulder and knee injuries, so hopefully he can get cleared up on that and get back soon. Maybe we have to miss SummerSlam, but obviously he's not doing anything at the moment. He's not a big deal, so I think having some time off for a couple months might do him some good. Probably the surprise of the night was Elias and Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins got a great match out of Elias. I wouldn't say great match. I say very good match. I said this on the show last week on the Bullet Cast that Seth Rollins has had great matches with The Miz. He's pulled out. He's had a good run lately, and Elias just hasn't had one of those breakout star-making matches so far. And I wouldn't say this was a star-making match. I don't think it was as good as the Miz match last month, but it definitely was a step in the right direction for Elias in-ring wise. He was able to have a very good match with Seth Rollins. Obviously, not everyone is Seth Rollins. No one is Seth Rollins. He's not going to go out there with Jinder Mahal or Roman Reigns, I don't think. Even though Roman Reigns has delivered some exciting matches. With Elias, I I don't know if I'd say that his matches with Elias have been exciting, but yeah, Elias is paired up with the right guy. He definitely can have a fun match. Big Cass and Daniel Bryan. I picked Daniel Bryan. I think Philip picked Big Cass. I didn't see what was coming later in the week, but Daniel Bryan makes Big Cass tap. I thought it was a fun match. I did think it was a little strange of why Daniel Bryan had so much offense on Big Cass, and we all know why now. But in the moment, I was thinking that, dang, I mean, Bryan getting a majority of the offense, maybe even 75%. Big Cass getting the heat on him at the very end, but then Daniel Bryan putting the heel hook on him, making him tap out in the middle of the ring twice. Don't know where Daniel Bryan goes from here without really talking about what happened on SmackDown. I mean, maybe Miz, maybe Bludgeon Brothers. I mean, maybe we see a Team Hell No getting back together. And don't forget to vote Glenn Jacobs for Knoxville County Mayor down there in Tennessee. Asuka going up against Carmella. I thought Asuka just staring at the Asuka person for like forever, just being in awe, was so dumb. I think it, hurts Asuka so much. I think you could have done the same thing and made Asuka look less dopey and still get the same thing across. But Carmella and James Ellsworth, I think it is a good pairing. I really do think that it's a good way to have Carmella be believable in terms of beating people like Asuka, Charlotte, Becky, all the other baby faces on the roster who pose a much bigger threat and are honestly way better wrestlers than Carmella. And if you do have Carmella as the champion, I think you do have to have a manager or something to where, she's not beating all these women clean, because it just defines all of them down, because I don't think anybody really sees Carmella as a great wrestler. She has gotten better in her defense. She's really good on the mic. She knows her character really well. But when it comes to in-ring, it's not very pretty. So yeah. I think that's it. All the main points off Money in the Bank. So thank you guys very much for listening. Stay tuned for the Bullet Cast. Talk about Raw, SmackDown. Talk about Big Van Vader. I will have the match pick of the week this week, so I will have a match pick for you from Vader's career. Definitely, if you haven't seen a lot of Vader's career, definitely go out and look it up. Definitely WCW and some New Japan. I don't know exactly if they have New Japan stuff on. I don't know if they have Vader's matches on New Japan World. I'm pretty sure they have something. Go out there and definitely find the WCW stuff and the New Japan stuff on the internet. If you can find all Japan matches of Vader, definitely go out there and do it. If you have a soft spot for Vader and WWF, go and watch that if you want, but not his best stuff of his career. Definitely WCW and stuff he did in Japan is the highlight of Vader's career. Very sad that Vader passed away. Obviously, he's said in the past that he doesn't have that much long to live. He has some heart issues, but honestly, one of the best big men of all time, and we can debate that later. But, I haven't really heard bad things about Vader, Leon White, the guy. People say he's stiff in the ring, he's stuff like that. But I think out of the ring, he seemed like a really nice guy. Never met him, never saw him in person. But what I've heard from him, seen some of his matches, definitely one of the all-time greats. And just a sad, sad story that he had to pass away this young at 64, I believe. And he never got into the WWE Hall of Fame. I know we did who should be in the WWE Hall of Fame a couple months ago, and I forgot if I said Vader or not. Maybe just because I assumed Vader was already in the Hall of Fame, but Vader definitely should be in any reputable wrestling Hall of Fame, because he is damn near the best big man of all time, and he should be in a wrestling Hall of Fame. If you have a wrestling Hall of Fame and you don't have Vader in it, I don't know if I can take you seriously as a wrestling Hall of Fame. We all know I'm not the biggest fan of the WWE Hall of Fame, because it's a whole propaganda political mess. So that is it for Under the Radar episode 4. Thank you guys very much for listening, and goodbye, and good night. Bang.